Hi, and thank you for listening to this recording. What I'm planning to do is to summarize everything that I have learned about each topic that I study. For now, it would be the general principles of taxation. So I have here a list of the concepts that I have to remember. I'll just explain what I understand about them and then go through each of them. Okay, so let us start. For the first one, I'll discuss the definition of taxation. So, according to my reference, it is the process by which the sovereign raises income to defray the expenses of the government. Okay, so yun yung kanyang definition. Medyo madali na namang intindihin, no? And makukuha mo rin dito yung primary purpose ng taxation. And what is that? To raise revenue. Yun yung primary purpose ng taxation. Just remember that. And moving forward with regard to the secondary purposes of taxation. Ano-ano yung mga yon? Kung raising revenue yung primary, ang secondary ay, eto, may mga examples dito. This may not be all the secondary purposes, however, it's good to know na itong mga iilan na to. I'm not gonna discuss everything. Protection of local industries against foreign competition through imposition of high customs duties on imported goods. Okay, so medyo familiar ka ba doon yung merong taxes or merong kailangan bayaran pagka mag-import ka ng goods. So, mas malaki yung price ng imported goods kesa sa local goods. Therefore, mas tatangkilikin yung local goods. Next, reduction of inequalities in wealth and income by imposing progressively higher taxes or higher tax rates. Pag high income earner, higher tax rate din. Pag low income earner, lower tax rate. So, ang effect nun is nababalance. So yung since both of them are expected to receive the benefit from the government, nakaka-receive ng benefit, same benefit yung low income earner sa kapalit ng mas mababang tax rate. So, na-equalize yung or na-distribute yung wealth. Next is strengthening of anemic enterprises by giving tax exemptions. Kunwari may industry, certain industry, sugar, kunwari. Tapos, medyo yung economic standing nila is below yung performance nila is decreasing. So, para matulungan sila, magbibigay ng tax exemption yung government. So, yun. Since yung ibang industries nagbabayad ng normal na tax, tapos sila ay may exemption, mangyayari niyan, mas madali sa kanila makaka-cope up sa situation. Next is to serve as key instrument of social control. Familiar ka ba sa sin taxes, yung kunwari sa mga cigarette or sa alcoholic drinks? Meron pa nga sa sweetened beverages. Meron tax doon na dinadagdag, so mas tumataas yung price, mas nadi-discourage yung mga tao na bumili. So yun yung way ng government para makontrol yung consumption ng mga tao with regard to those products. Yun yung sa social control. Just gonna look for other purposes. Titingnan ko kung di-discuss ko pa. Wala na. So, yun lang yung nandito sa listahan ko. Mga nanote ko. So, for the next one, I'm going to discuss the scope of taxation. It says here that taxation is unlimited, comprehensive, plenary, and supreme, subject to limitations enumerated in the Constitution and the will of the legislatures. So, what does it mean? When you say unlimited, it means that there is no limit as to the amount that may be imposed as tax. No, so any amount or any rate pwedeng i-apply para sa gagawing tax law, no. And next one is, it says that it is comprehensive. So meron siyang wide extent of application. Pwede mong taksan yung property, pwedeng taksan yung person, pwedeng taksan yung mga pag-exercise ng rights. So yung mga kinds of taxation as to subject, no, halos lahat nasasakop niya pag comprehensive. Next, plenary, which means that it is complete. Dapat kumpleto yung pag-exercise ng power of taxation. Nandyan yung rate, nandyan yung base, tax base, nandyan din yung object. Basta lahat ng details about sa pag-implement ng tax law or yung pag-levy ng tax dapat kumpleto. So, yun. For the next one, supreme. Ibig sabihin, the power of taxation is of the highest degree. Pagka i-compare mo siya sa other inherent powers ng state, it is the most powerful. So, yun tayo para sa scope of taxation. For the next one, we will talk about the basis of taxation. Bakit ba kailangan ng taxation? Ano yung mga theories behind it? Number one is the lifeblood theory. I'm just gonna read it. Sabi is, taxation is the lifeblood or the bread and butter of the government, and every citizen must pay his taxes. Yun. So, hindi mabubuhay ang government pagka walang taxes. Okay? Kasi ngayon yung ginagamit niya para sa pag-support ng expenses. Ito pa. Kaya, basahin ko isa pang explanation ng lifeblood theory. Without taxes, a government would be paralyzed for lack of power to activate and operate it, resulting in its destruction. So, yun yung lifeblood theory or necessity theory rin kung tawagin. Sumunod naman, isa pang basis ng taxation. Ito yung tinatawag na benefits protection theory or reciprocal duties theory. Kung kanina, sinasabi na hindi mabubuhay yung government kapag walang tax. Dito naman, meron tayong symbiotic relationship between the government and the people. Nung ibig sabihin nun, ito, babasahin ko rin. Taxation is the indispensable and inevitable price for civilized society. The government would be paralyzed without it. Yung unang part nung statement na yon, taxation daw ay kailangan ng society. Kasi nga, the government provides protection to its people by not just necessarily protection when it comes to protection against terrorism, protection against foreign occupation, hindi lang yun. Pwede rin yung protection na make sure na yung general welfare ng mga tao ay present, like sa health, sa education, ano pa ba, yung opportunities yung sa employment, di ba? Yun yung mga protection na pinaprovide ng government. Pero hindi niya magagawa yun kung walang taxes. Kaya meron siyang benefits dapat na sorry, medyo na-interrupt yung recording. But continuing what we are discussing, benefits protection theory nga, tatandaan mo lang is symbiotic relationship. May give and take. So, that's it for this concept. Ngayon, pag-usapan natin yung principles or canons of a sound tax system. May acronym yan, FEA. Una, fiscal adequacy. Sunod, equality or theoretical justice. And then, administrative feasibility. Anong ibig sabihin ng fiscal adequacy? Ang tatandaan mo lang keyword dyan is, yung ngayon, wait lang. Hanapin ko lang sa notes ko. Ano yung keyword ko sa fiscal adequacy? Yun, certainty. Certainty. Kailangan yung tax system makasiguro na magiging sapat yung kanyang revenue na mapaprovide para masuportahan yung expenses ng government. Just gonna read the definition by the book. Sabi dito, revenue must be sufficient to meet the demands of public expenditures. So it's the same as I have provided earlier. Ngayon, sunod tayo sa equality or theoretical justice. It means that based on ability to pay, yun, equality or theoretical justice. Ang keyword natin dyan is equality. Yun na rin yun, yun nandun sa name niya or sa tawag sa kanya, equality. Sumunod is administrative feasibility. Capable of convenient, just, and effective administration. Ang keyword mo dyan is convenient. Dapat daw yung tax system is madaling i-manage, madaling patakbuhin. Kasi kung magkakos lang ng problems yung mga certain aspects nito, edi dapat tanggalin na yon or i-modify para mas maging convenient both on the part of the taxpayers and dun sa mga nag-i-implement ng revenue laws. So that's all for the principles or canons of a sound tax system. Another concept that I would like to elaborate is the characteristics of internal revenue taxes, that they are civil in nature. So what do we mean by that? Pag binasa mo yung ibig sabihin ng civil law deals with behavior that constitutes an injury to an individual or other private party such as a corporation. So yun ang civil law. Compare mo siya sa criminal law. Criminal law deals with behavior that is or can be construed as an offense against the public society or the state, even if the immediate victim is an individual. Kunwari, pagka yung kaso ay hindi sumunod sa kontrata, sa lease contract, ang na-violate lang ay right ng isang party sa contract. So, civil law lang kasi individual lang yung naapektuhan, yung right lang ng isang individual. However, kung ang kaso ay murder o kaya robbery, ang naapektuhan ay isang tao lang din kasi isa lang din yung ninakawan. However, nagiging threat siya sa welfare ng community as a whole, no? So baka kasi maulit yun eh. So criminal law na yung i-apply mo para doon. Ngayon naman, ano namang implication na civil in nature ang mga internal revenue taxes? Ibig sabihin, kasi yung, di ba may Japanese occupation? One attribute ng ng civil law is that it is still effective even if the state or the country is under the occupation of a different body or of a colonizer. So, yun, ibig sabihin yung tax laws natin still effective kahit na under tayo ng occupation ng mga Japanese. Yun yung sa nabasa kong article, and also ito rin yung explanation sa amin dun sa review center. So that's it for the characteristic of internal revenue taxes, that they are civil in nature. Pagka sa choices nakalagay penal in nature or political in nature, ignore nyo lang yun kasi ang tax laws are civil in nature. For the next one, we are going to talk about the stages or aspects of taxation. So what are they? lagyan mo na acronym LAP or LAP. The first one is levy, next is assessment and collection, and the last one is payment. Ano ibig sabihin ng levy? This refers to the enactment of a law by Congress imposing a tax. So levy is the enactment of a law. Paggawa ng batas na for the imposition of tax. Levy yon, levy. Next is assessment and collection. This is the act of administration and implementation of the tax law by the executive department through the administrative agencies. Ano ba yung agency na nag-handle ng collection and assessment ng taxation? Familiar tayo sa BIR, Bureau of Internal Revenue. However, ang ganito kasi yan, Office of the President, yun yung executive department, and under niya is the Department of Finance, and under the Department of Finance are two bureaus. And the first one is Bureau of Internal Revenue, and the other is Bureau of Customs. Sa internal revenue, ito yung mga income tax, estate tax, value-added tax, and other kinds of internal revenue taxes. Pagka sa Bureau of Customs, ito yung mga customs duties, tariffs, and others na mga binabayaran sa importation and exportation of goods. So, hindi yun kabilang sa internal revenue. So, yun sa assessment and collection. For the last one, we have payment, which is the act of compliance by the taxpayer, including whatever remedies are available to him under the law. Ito yun, payment. Okay, payment, simple, magbabayad ka ng tax, and pag isipin mo dito, meron dang whatever remedies are available to him under the law. Ito kasi yung mga refunds, tax refunds, and also mga tax credit. Diyan mo i-apply. Doon kanina sa assessment and collection, naintindihan mo ba yung pinagkaiba ng assessment at collection? When you say assessment, the amount of tax to be paid is being assessed or dinadetermine pa, kinocompute pa. And sa collection, pinapaalam mo na dun sa taxpayer ano yung dapat niyang bayaran, and binibigyan mo na siya ng obligation na magbayad sa collection. And sa payment, doon na nga yung natatapos yung kanyang obligation kasi nakapagbayad na siya. So these are the three aspects or three stages of taxation. Let me just repeat them. Levy, assessment and collection, and then payment. For the next concept, we have this statement: the power to tax sometimes or may involve the power to destroy. So what does it mean? Power to destroy means that yung property rights ng mga tao ay pwedeng i-disregard kapag in-implement mo yung power of taxation. So yun. However, nakalagay doon may or sometimes dun sa statement kasi if ever the Supreme Court finds that the tax law or the application of the tax law is very abusive na sa mga pinagagawa nito, then the Supreme Court can intervene. No, it may nullify, or ano yung tamang term? Titingnan ko lang dito. Just a moment. Ayun nga, nullify. The Supreme Court may nullify a tax law, hence property rights are not affected. So, yun, para sa power to destroy. Yung property rights, yung kunwari, alam mo sa'yo to pero pwedeng kuhanin sa'yo dahil sa pag-apply ng tax law or ng power of taxation. Now, let us talk about tax laws and the generally accepted accounting principles. In case of conflict, which of them shall prevail or which of them shall be applied? Basic understanding, pag ang subject ay taxation, then tax laws ang dapat i-apply. Pag ang subject ay financial accounting, then GAAP shall be applied. And if you're gonna think about it, if the accounting principles are contrary to what the law says, then law shall prevail. Kaya yun yung standpoint ng taxation. Dapat tax laws ang manaig kung sakaling mayroong conflict between the GAAP and the tax laws. Moving forward, we have this statement: revenue laws are prospective in operation unless the legislative intent that the statute operate retrospectively is distinctly expressed or necessarily implied. What do we mean by that? Pinagkaiba ng prospective at retrospective. Pag prospective, pagkapasa ng batas, from here on forward, yun yung maapektuhan ng provisions ng bagong batas. Prospective yun. Pag retrospective, pagkapasa ng batas, uungkatin mo pa yung mga nakaraan. Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of any relevant time, yun hanggang sa future, yun yung mga maapektuhan ng pagbabago sa tax law. Yun yung retrospective. So, pag silent yung statute or yung batas, then prospective ang application. However, if it can be implied and if it is expressed clearly na retrospective application, then sumunod ka sa retrospective application. So, yan yung para sa time frame ng effect or ng relevance ng tax laws. So, for the next one, we have the characteristics of the state's power to tax. Number 1, it is inherent in sovereignty. 2, legislative in character. And 3, subject to constitutional and inherent limitations. So, what do these characteristics mean? Pag sinabing inherent in sovereignty, it means that taxation may be exercised although not expressly granted by the Constitution. So, kahit walang sinasabi yung Constitution na may power to tax ang state, pwede siyang mag-exercise nito kahit walang sinasabi. In fact, the provisions of the Constitution ay meron siyang limitations yung kanyang pinapahayag with regard to the power of taxation and hindi grant of power. Next one, legislative in character. Only the legislative can impose taxes. So, para makapag-impose ng tax, kailangan mong gumawa ng batas and only the legislative branch can create tax laws or can create laws. Next, meron siyang subject to constitutional and inherent limitations. It means that the power of taxation is not absolute, no? Yun nga, may constitutional and inherent limitations. Pag sinabing constitutional, these are limitations that are found in the Constitution. Pag inherent, these are limitations which are not found in the Constitution. So, we're gonna talk about the inherent and constitutional limitations after this. So, ayun nga, inherent limitations, 5 sila dito. Levied for public purpose, exemption from taxation of government entities, non-delegation of legislative power to tax, territorial, and international committee. For the first one, levied for public purpose. It means that yung taxes dapat gagamitin lang for public purpose. Hindi ka maniningil ng tax para gamitin for private purpose. Kunwari, pagpapatayo ng or pagpapagawa ng kalsada sa isang private subdivision, hindi valid yon kasi hindi public purpose yon. Sumunod is exemption from taxation of government entities. Yung mga GOCCs, mga local governments, mga departments, so hindi sila pwedeng kolektahan ng tax, dapat exempted sila. However, meron ako isang problem na nabasa. Sabi daw, the government can assess or can collect taxes from the military or the armed forces of the Philippines. So, naisip ko, sagot ko doon is false kasi exempted dapat kasi part ng government yung armed forces. However, sabi sa explanation, true daw siya, and dahil nga wala daw limit yung power of taxation, kahit sarili ng government kaya niyang taksan. So, medyo in conflict siya dito sa inherent limitation na to. However, siguro kailangan pa ng mas paglilinaw para sa akin. Pero if medyo may idea ka about this, if you can add more information, then I will be happy to receive feedback from you. So, next one is non-delegation of legislative power to tax. So, dapat Congress lang ang gumagawa ng tax laws or ng kahit anong batas. Pero may mga ordinance naman sa local. Pero when it regards to the tax, dapat Congress lang ang may karapatang gumawa ng tax laws. May exemption yan kasi na-delegate sa President yung power to set the amount or the rate of customs duties and tariffs within specified limitations, no? Yun lang yung exemption dito sa non-delegation. For the next one, territorial. So, if an object belongs to the territory of a different state or a different country, then bawal mong taksan yun. Dapat yung within your territory lang. And then lastly is international committee. If there are agreements with other states or other countries when it regards to taxation, then dapat sundin mo yun. Yun yung limitation mo sa pag-apply ng taxation. Like kunwari yung mga ambassador na nag-i-stay sa Pilipinas. So, merong yun, siyempre may arrangement yun, paano ba, kailangan bang kolektahan mo sila ng tax, or kung kukolektahan man, ganitong rate, or hindi ako masyadong familiar pero dapat yung agreement mo with other countries mag-prevail kung sakaling mag-exercise ka ng power of taxation. So, for the next concept, we have here the constitutional limitations. So, ilan ba to? 1, 2, 3, 7. 7 yung constitutional limitations. The first one is due process of law. So, dapat always the rights of an individual or being respected whenever may something na i-implement or i-enact na batas yung ating government. So, due process of law. Next, equal protection of the laws. Dapat equal yung treatment sa bawat isa. Meron tax na enact, tax law enacted, and para sa isang tao lang yung object ng tax na yon. So, nakaspecify yung pangalan niya. Bakit naman siya lang yung tataksan mo ng ganun? Ano yun, special case. So, hindi yun equal protection. Dapat logical or mayroong basehan bakit siya lang or kaya naman yung kunwari lahat lang ng mga barbero yung may tax na ganito. Pwede yun kasi iba't iba naman yung profession nakapaloob naman sa isang group of people yung tinataksan. Pero yung isang tao lang talaga yung tataksan mo ng ganun, special kind of tax, that is not equal protection. Next is non-impairment of obligation of contracts. Ito yon. Kasi yung contracts nag-create ng obligation. So, pagka may bagong batas, dapat hindi siya makapag-interfere dun sa existing na obligation ng mga parties sa isang contract. Like, ano ba? Kunwari, yung sa pagpapaupa ng condominium. Tapos, like, 5% dapat, kunwari, 50% dapat ibayad as tax, di ba? Yung ganon, parang meron na silang kasunduan before pa ma-enact yung batas na yon, tapos biglang dumating yung batas, tapos mababago yung kasunduan nila dahil merong bagong batas. Hindi pwede yon. Dapat yung obligation of contracts ay hindi ma-impair. Next, non-imprisonment for non-payment of poll tax. Actually, dalawa to. Non-payment of debt or poll tax. Yung poll tax kasi, yung tax on the person itself, tinatawag din siyang community tax or ano pa yung isang tawag, personal tax. Personal capitation or poll tax. Yung community tax pala, ito yung example ng mga poll tax. So, yun. Bawal ka makulong kung hindi ka magbayad ng community tax. Next one is, rule of taxation shall be uniform and equitable. Yan. Uniform. Dapat pantay-pantay lang. Kunwari, yung lahat ng mga CPAs, kung may tax na ipapataw sa kanila, dapat pare-pareho sila. Yung sa mga babayaran ng mga CPAs, pare-parehong rate. Hindi pwedeng may special na isa na mas mababa. Next is equitable, dapat based on the ability to pay. Hindi yung mag-impose ka ng tax which is imposibleng mabayaran ng tao. Next one, exemption from real property tax of charitable institutions, churches, parsonages, or convents appurtenant thereto, mosques, and non-profit institutions, and all lands, buildings, and improvements actually, directly, and exclusively used for religious or charitable purposes. So, yun dami, no? Parang hindi ko siya kabisado iniisip ko na lang parang charitable and religious purpose yun. Exemption daw sa real property tax. Real property tax lang hindi kasama yung income tax, hindi kasama yung ibang klase ng taxes. So charitable and religious related na mga organization or mga properties na yun yung purpose nila, yung paggamit. Next one, last, is exemption from income taxes and customs duties of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions, and exemption from real property taxes on lands and improvements which are used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes. Proprietary educational institutions, including those cooperatively owned, may likewise be entitled to such exemptions, subject to the limitations provided by the law. So ano to? Yung mga non-profit na mga educational institution, non-stock. Pag may nakita kang board of trustees dun sa kanilang organizational chart, ibig sabihin non-stock, non-profit sila. Pero kung board of directors, di stock sila and for profit. So itong mga to daw is exempted sa income taxes and customs duties. Tapos ngayon naman, kung yung gamit ng property is for educational purpose, exempted naman siya sa real property. Yun. Kunwari, ito yung example. Si Company A, may-ari ng land sa gitna ng University Belt. Ngayon, nagpatayo siya ng building, tapos pinaupahan niya kay Company B, which is an educational institution. Ngayon, yung property ni Company A ay exempted sa real property tax, although hindi naman siya engaged sa education, nagpapaupa lang siya, kasi yung gamit dun sa property is for educational purposes. So, exempted siya sa pagbabayad ng real property tax with regard to that property. So, that's all for the constitutional limitations. Okay, so our next concept to be discussed is the essential elements of tax. Number 1, it is an enforced contribution. Wala kang karapatang tumanggi. Next, it is generally payable in money. Bawal ang in kind. Then, proportionate in character. Ibig sabihin, meron kang tax rate na fixed and meron kang tax base. However, hindi siya true at all times kasi kunwari sa income tax, di ba, may graduated rates. Hindi fixed yung ating tax rate. Pero sa passive income, kunwari yung sa interest sa deposit, 20% lang. So, fixed siya. So, proportionate siya. Mamaya pag-usapan natin yung proportionate, regressive, tsaka progressive tax. And then after that, we have levied in persons, property, or exercise of right or privilege. So, may tax daw para sa mga persons, and then may tax para sa property, and may tax para sa exercise of right or privilege. Mamaya related yan dun sa classification of taxes as to subject matter or object. And after that, we have levied by the state, which has jurisdiction over the subject or object of taxation. Hindi pwedeng taksan ng United States ang income ng isang resident citizen ng Pilipinas. Kasi ito ay hindi under ng jurisdiction niya. Especially kung yung income ng resident citizen is na-earn niya sa Pilipinas, no? Unless na lang sa United States niya na-earn yung kanyang income. And then we have levied by lawmaking body of state. So, Congress lang ang pwedeng mag-levy ng tax. And then lastly, we have levied for public purpose. Yun, katulad yun sa inherent limitation, no? Dapat for public purpose lang gagamitin yung funds na makokolekta sa taxes. Okay, so we have now classification of taxes. Unang classification ay as to subject matter or object. We have 3. Personal, capitation or poll, then property, and lastly, excise tax or privilege tax. Ang una is yung personal capitation or poll. Ito yung tax na imposed on persons residing within a specified territory without regard to their property or occupation. Just being born and just being a person residing on a specified area, pwede kang taksan ng community tax. And then, we have property tax. By the way, the example for personal capitation or poll tax is community tax. And then, we have property tax, which is a tax on property whether real or personal. Ang example ay real property tax. Ito yung tinatawag na amilyar. And then, lastly, excise tax, which is imposed upon the performance of an act, enjoyment of privilege, or engaging in an occupation. Ano ba yun? Income tax example, donor's tax, and estate tax. um, ano ba yung pinagkaiba kasi ng yung excise tax is tax on the exercise of a privilege. Ano ba yung pinagkaiba ng privilege tsaka right? For additional information, no? Pag privilege, ito yung pag right, ito yung karapatan mo talaga by inherent siya sa pagkatao mo or sa iyo bilang part ng isang bansa. Pero pag privilege, binigyan ka lang ng pribilehiyo. Hindi siya natural sa iyo. Parang utang na loob mo dun sa nagbigay sa iyo yung privilege, no? So, tax daw yung excise tax sa pag-exercise ng privilege. Yung kunwari sa income tax. Dahil kumikita ka, privilege mong kumikita ka. So, may tax ka, income tax. The next classification of taxes ay as to who bears the burden. Sino ba yung dapat magbayad ng tax? Or sino yung dapat mag-shoulder nung ipambabayad na tax? Number 1 is direct tax and number 2 is indirect tax. Direct tax is demanded from persons who also shoulder the burden of the tax. Example ay income tax, estate tax, and donor's tax. Bakit? Ikaw yung kumita ng income, so ikaw din yung magbabayad ng income tax. Yun yung example nun. Indirect tax, these are demanded from person who shall indemnify himself at the expense of another. Katulad ng VAT and other percentage taxes. Ano ba yung concept ng VAT? Bumili ka sa Jollibee, tapos nakita mo sa resibo may VAT. Yung presyo lang nung produktong binili mo, net of VAT, ay 12%, 100 pesos lang. Pero yung binayaran mo is 112. Yung 12 is para sa value added tax. Hindi ikaw yung magbabayad nun sa BIR or sa taxing authority. Si Jollibee yung magbabayad. Pero sinama yun sa produktong binili mo, pinasa sa'yo yung burden. Although hindi ikaw yung required na magbayad nun. Indirect tax yun. The next classification of taxes ay yung as to determination of amount. Meron tayong specific and ad valorem. When you say specific tax, a fixed amount is by the head, number, or some standard of weight or measurement is used. Example is excise tax on distilled spirits, wines, and liquors. So, nakabase siya sa measurement, no? Kuwari, volume, length, weight, yun yung, or number nung mga products or objects ng tax. Specific siya. Meron kang amount per head or amount per volume unit, no? Next one is ad valorem, a fixed proportion of the value of property with respect to which tax is assessed. Yan. Example is real estate tax. I-compute muna or i-estimate muna yung fair value or whichever the tax base of the property is before ka makapag-compute ng tax, no? Meron kang percentage nun na kukunin bilang tax na babayaran. So, yung tax base is yung estimate or yung computation ng value ng property and yung tax rate is fixed. And then, yun, kukumputin na yung dapat bayaran. Yun yung ad valorem. Hindi siya nakabase sa bilang, hindi nakabase sa sukat, as opposed to specific tax. The next classification of taxes is as to purpose. We have two, general fiscal or revenue, and then lastly is special or regulatory. When you say general fiscal or revenue, these are taxes imposed to raise revenue for the general purposes of the government, like income tax and value-added tax. Yun naman yung common is general or fiscal tax. Next is special or regulatory tax. These are imposed for special purposes like customs duties or sugar adjustment taxes. Ito yun eh. Kunwari nga yung sin tax, di ba? Yung na-discuss ko na to nung una. Hindi siya, although merong revenue siyang na-generate for the government, ang main purpose niya talaga is to regulate the consumption of the products affected by it. No? Kaya siya isang special or regulatory tax. Tuloy ko na para sa next classification of taxes as to the imposing authority. We have national tax and municipal or local tax. For national taxes, these are imposed by the national government. Examples are internal revenue taxes and customs duties. So, madali lang naman siya intindihin. National government pag national tax. Next one is municipal or local tax. These are imposed by local government units. Examples are sand and gravel tax and occupation tax. Yan, local government naman for municipal or local taxes. And moving forward, we have as to graduation or rate. We have proportional tax, progressive tax, and regressive tax. When you say proportional tax, it means that it is based on fixed percentage of property, receipts, or other basis to be taxed. Example is VAT. Yun kasi yung VAT is 12% lang regardless of your income, gross receipts, sales, ano man yung pinagbabasihan ng VAT, 12% lang siya. Next one, progressive. The rate increases as the tax base increases. Examples are income tax, estate tax, and owner's tax. Ito yung tinatawag na graduated rates, no, yung ginagamit, yung tax table. Habang tumataas yung tax base, the tax rate increases. And this one is more equitable than the next one that we are going to discuss, which is regressive tax. The tax rate decreases as the tax base increases. Kabaligtaran siya, habang tumataas yung income, kunwari, bumababa yung tax rate. And it is kind of nag-encourage na taasan mo yung income mo. Pero hindi siya ganun ka applicable sa bansa, or kasi parang mababa na kinikita mo, mas malaki pa yung tax na binabayaran mo, or yung portion ng kinikita mo yung napupunta sa taxes. Okay, so that's all for the classification of taxes. Okay, so at this point we are going to learn more about the other two inherent powers of the state, namely police power and the power of eminent domain. What is police power? Police power is the power of promoting the public welfare by restraining and regulating the use of both liberty and property of all the people. For example, you own a car, and in order for you to drive your car, you need to get a driver's license. So, by having a driver's license, then the government can ensure that you are knowledgeable about driving and you have the right skill. So, without the police power, then you will be driving even though you don't know how to drive. That is a possibility. So, the state or the government will prevent you from using your vehicle if ever you are not able to pass and get a driver's license successfully. So, yun. Pwedeng pigilan ka na gamitin yung property mo, and also pigilan ka na yung sa liberty, kasi di ba nga may nakukulong. Kunwari, nagnakaw. So, to promote public welfare, ikukulong yung magnanakaw. So, yung liberty naman, yung ating nare-restrain dito sa example na yon. Tanda mo yun, restraining and regulating the use of both liberty and property of all the people. Next one is the power of eminent domain, and by definition, it affects only property rights, and it may be exercised by some private entities, and here, the property forcibly taken under this power upon the payment of just compensation is needed for conversion to public use or public purpose. Ano ba yun? Pinaghiwalay pa niya ng sentence eh. Basically, ang ginagawa is merong intention si state na gamitin yung property ng isang ng isang individual. So, kukunin niya yun kapalit ng isang just compensation, and yun, kunwari yung road widening, nasa tabi ng kalsadang may road widening yung property ng isang tao, kunwari si Mr. A. Ngayon, to pursue the project, kailangan gibain yung bahay ni Mr. A. Ngayon, bibilin yun ng government, and then gagamitin yon sa pag-road widening, which is public purpose or public use. Yun lang yung difference nun. Yung taxation naman, yung pangatlong inherent power, we are already familiar with that. Ngayon naman, we are going to go through all the list. May listahan dito ng distinctions between the three inherent powers of the state. Number 1, as to authority. Pagka police power daw and taxation, it is exercised only by the government. Okay, police power and taxation, government only. Pag eminent domain, it is granted also to public service companies or public utilities. What is an example of that? Like, yung siguro yung sa Maynila, yung sa pag naglilay ng may pipe laying, 'di ba? Minsan may nasasagasa ang mga private property. Or ano pa ba? Sa Meralco ba meron? I'm just not familiar with the specific example, pero I think medyo understandable naman siya or relevant naman siya sa day-to-day nating na ginagamit siya ng mga public service companies. Not just aware about the detail kung paano nila ginagawa yon. Next, as to purpose, property is taken to support the government pagka taxation. To support the government pag taxation. Next, pag eminent domain, property is taken for public use. Public use. And then, pagka police power, property is taken or destroyed to promote public welfare. O yan. Di ba nga yung may mga nakukumpiskang mga marijuana, dinidestroy, sinusunog, o kaya mga paputok, pinapaputok na nila or binabasa. Di ba? Next, distinction between the inherent powers as to persons affected. When it comes to taxation and police power, a group of or class of individuals are affected. Example niyan ay yung income tax. Napakaraming apektado niyan. Lahat ng income earners ay subject sa income tax. Sa eminent domain, individuals as the owner of particular property or only one individual as the owner of a particular property is affected. Kasi nga, when you take the property of a person, siya lang yung magiging kausap ni government or ni state regarding that action for eminent domain. Next, distinction between the inherent powers as to effect. When it comes to taxation, the effect is that the property becomes part of public funds. Part of public funds. Okay, easy to understand naman. Next, eminent domain. There is transfer of right or ownership. So, nalilipat yung ownership ng property sa state. And for police power, there is no transfer of title. At most, there is restraint on injurious use of property. So, still, yung individual na na-applyan ng police power is still the owner of the property. However, he is restrained or prohibited from using that property due to public welfare concerns. Okay, lastly, we have distinction between the inherent powers as to the amount of imposition. When it comes to taxation, there is no limit on the amount of tax. Tanda mo yan, kaya nga 'di ba unlimited, comprehensive, yung unlimited portion nun, yun yung ibig sabihin nun. Police power, the amount is limited to cover the cost of license and expenses of police surveillance and regulation. Yun lang yun, ano bang fees yung meron sa police power? License fees, o kaya yung violation fee siguro, yung mga ganon. And also ano ba license, not just sure about franchise fee, basta yun, license yung pinaka-relevant na nare-relate ko dito. For eminent domain, there is no imposition. Property owner is paid its market value. So, dito naman, walang kinukuha si government na amount of money. Kasi, instead of kumuha ng pera sa individual na yung sa owner ng property, si government pa yung nagbabayad ng pera. Kasi nga yung may just compensation. So, that is all regarding the distinctions between the three inherent powers of the state. So, for the next one, we are going to discuss what is toll and how is it different from tax. Yung toll, ito ang pinaka most common example is sa expressway, yung toll fee, 'di ba? So, sabi daw, toll is with regard to the demand of proprietorship or demand of kasi you are doing business or you own the property. So, if ever other people are going to use the property, then they have to pay the toll. Next, for taxation, it is a demand of sovereignty. Because you are a state, then you can collect taxes from the people. Sovereignty. Next distinction is that toll is paid for the use of another's property, and taxes are paid for the support of government. Easy to understand. Next, toll is the amount is based on cost of construction or maintenance of public improvement. Yun daw yung purpose ng toll. Pagka tax, the amount is based on necessities of the state. So, yun yung pinagkaiba nila. Yung isa, sa construction or maintenance, sa tax naman, necessities, no, yung pag-defray na expenses ng state. Next, toll is imposed by government, private individuals, or entities. On the other hand, taxes are imposed only by the by the government. So those are the distinctions between toll and taxes. Tackling the next item on the list, we have the difference between taxes and licenses. Um, for the first one, we have licenses as imposed for regulation while taxes are levied for revenue. Since familiar ka naman sa driver's license, no? Most common example, these are required to make sure that everyone driving is capable or has the skill to drive. So that is why driver's licenses are required. Taxes naman levied for revenue does not necessarily mean na you are regulating something. However, taxes are sometimes used to control the behavior of people, like nga sa sin taxes, no? But yun yung primary purpose ng taxation is to generate revenue. Hindi siya for regulation or ano. Pero possible siyang gamitin for that purpose. Next one, licenses involve the exercise of police power, while taxes involve the exercise of taxing power. So different inherent power yung ginagamit. Next, licenses amount. For licenses, the amount is limited to expenses of regulation, while in taxes, there is no limit on the amount to be imposed. Natakal natin yan kasi nga police power to, so limited to expenses of regulation lang yung licenses. And lastly, we have licenses. Failure to pay for licenses makes the act or business illegal. And for taxes, failure to pay taxes does not make the business illegal. So, ito yung mga distinctions between taxes and licenses. Now, we will move on to the distinctions between taxes and debt. Debts are based on contract, while taxes are based on law. Alala mo yung ano? Obligations arising from law and obligations arising from contract. Ito yun. Pag contract, ay pagka debt, based on contract. Pagka taxes, based on law. Next, debts are assignable while taxes are not able to be assigned or cannot generally be assigned. Okay, so yun nga, kasi nga pagka arising from law, they cannot be assigned. Pagka arising from contracts, they are assignable. Next, debts may be paid in kind while taxes are generally payable in money. So yun yung other distinction between them. And lastly, we have debts upon non-payment, imprisonment is not a sanction. And for taxes, imprisonment is a sanction in case of non-payment except for poll tax. So yan yung mga distinctions between taxes and debts. Now let us talk about these two systems of taxation, regressive system and progressive system. When you say regressive system, it introduces more indirect taxes rather than direct taxes. So yun yung kanyang basic definition. While progressive system introduces more indirect taxes rather than direct taxes. So if you're familiar with direct and indirect taxes, then mas madali mo tong maunawaan. I'm just not sure if which system is implemented in the Philippines. However, I can think na it is more of progressive system. Kasi ngayon ko lang to narinig to o nabasa tong dalawang items na to. Okay? Now, let us talk about double taxation. It says here that it is not unconstitutional but is being discouraged. Why? Kasi nga naman, kung double taxation, very sad naman, no? 2 beses ka magbabayad ng tax. Meron tayong dalawang kinds, direct duplicate taxation and indirect duplicate taxation. When you say direct duplicate taxation, an item is being taxed twice when there is the same taxing authority and it is within the same taxing jurisdiction. It is for the same purpose in the same period and the same property in the territory. So, lahat-lahat same. 2 beses siyang tinaksan talaga. Ngayon naman, sa indirect duplicate taxation, double taxation other than direct duplicate taxation. It extends to all cases in which there is burden of 2 or more pecuniary impositions. Example dito ay if you are a resident citizen ng Pilipinas. So you happen to visit Thailand kunwari, tapos you have performed some services in Thailand. So as a resident citizen, tataksan ka on your income from within and without. So yung income mo abroad is may income tax. However, may tax ka rin sa Thailand, sa government ng Thailand. Since doon nangyari yung service. So, magkaiba yung taxing authority eh. Pero you were taxed on the same service that you have made, the same income. So, that is indirect double taxation kasi mawala lang yung kahit isa dun sa nilista ko, dun sa mga characteristics ng direct duplicate taxation. Ang tawag na dun ay indirect duplicate taxation. Okay? So that's it for double taxation. I just would like to add, there are ways on how to avoid double taxation. One is what we call foreign tax credit. It is allowed for persons earning income abroad and nagbayad sila ng tax also abroad. So yung binayaran nila may certain computation lang, tapos magkakaroon sila ng certain amount na pwedeng i-deduct sa payable niya in the Philippines. So that is one, foreign tax credit. Now let us take a look into these two concepts of tax avoidance and tax evasion. Tax evasion or tax dodging is the illegal or fraudulent means to defeat or lessen payment of tax. So yon, mga illegal. Katulad ng hindi pagpa-file ng return o kaya pag mamanipulate ng return. Next, tax avoidance or tax minimization is the legal or permissible means to reduce tax liability. So, ano kayang example nito? Like yung instead of siguro, for example, yung mga raw, wala akong maisip na specific example. Paano kaya? Kunwari, there are 2 municipalities or 2 provinces na you are thinking of putting up a business in. Namimili ka sa dalawa. Tapos naisip mo, dito sa kabila may local tax na ganito para sa mga na kung sakaling doon ka magtatayo ng business, maapektuhan ka, kailangan magbayad nun. Sa kabila walang local tax na gano'n. So, piliin mo na dun sa walang local tax, no? If ever, same lang naman yung mga other factors dun sa dalawang lugar na pinagpipilian. So, that's all for tax minimization and tax dodging. Now, let us learn about the other forms of escape from taxation. Meron tayo dito shifting, capitalization, and transformation. When you say shifting, it is the transfer of burden of tax by the original payer or the one on whom the tax was assessed or imposed to another or someone else. It is possible only when there is an exchange of commodities. Ito nga shifting, yung katulad sa indirect tax, di ba? Nasi-shift from the selling company to the consumers or consumers yung pagbabayad ng tax. Although si company talaga yung nag-remit kay BIR, pero in essence, yung nag-shoulder ng burden ay yung mga consumers. Next one is capitalization. It means the reduction in the price of the tax object equal to the capitalized value of future taxes which the purchaser expect to be called upon to pay. Ano naman to? Example, si A may ibebenta kay B. Worth 10,000 yung ibebenta niya. However, they have estimated na may dapat bayarang taxes in the future si B, which amounts to 1,000 pesos. So ngayon, as an agreement, meron tayong capitalization na tinatawag. 9,000 na lang ibebenta ni A kay B yung object na yon, with the consideration ng 1,000 na future tax na babayaran ni B because of acquiring that property or that object. So that is capitalization. Next one is transformation. The manufacturer or producer upon whom the tax has been imposed, fearing the loss of his market, if he should add the tax to the price, pays the tax and endeavors to recoup itself by improving his process of production, thereby turning out his units of production at a lower cost. Babasahin ko lang ulit sa isip ko kasi hindi ko siya masyadong nagigets. Okay, yon. So instead of increasing or treating the tax na babayaran ni manufacturer as a markup sa price ng goods, babayaran na lang niya separately. So bale, instead of being part of gross, ano ba yan? Magiging part of pag-compute ng gross profit yung iyong ano ba? Basta, instead na idagdag mo sa presyo ng goods, babawiin mo na lang siya with regard dun sa iyong gross income. No? Kung ano yung matitira sa gross income, doon mo na lang babawiin yung taxes na binayaran mo. So, that's all for the other forms of avoiding or escaping taxation. Now, let us talk about the ways on interpreting tax laws or the rules on interpreting tax laws. As a general rule, tax laws shall be interpreted liberally in favor of the taxpayer and strictly against the government. Dapat kung may doubt if tataksan ba o hindi tataksan, huwag mong taksan. Ganon. Kasi nga, liberally in favor of the taxpayer. Pero may exemption yon. In cases of tax exemptions and deductions, dapat strictly in favor of the tax or strictly against the taxpayer and liberally in favor of the government. Baligtad naman. Kung may doubt ka kung exempted ba o hindi, huwag mong i-exempt kasi dapat strictly against the taxpayer. So that's how you interpret tax laws based on these rules. Moving forward, let us have the sources of tax laws. So what are they? Number 1, the Constitution. Number 2 is statutory enactment. Ito yung mga batas na pinasa ng Congress. Next one are administrative rulings and regulations. Ito yung sa BIR, no, yung mga implementing rules, yung mga ganon. And then we have judicial decisions. So that is the last one. Ito naman yung sa Court of Tax Appeals and Supreme Court sa pag-interpret nila ng tax laws. Next, we have the rules on set-off of taxes. As a general rule, it is not permissible for taxes to be set off or compensated against the obligations of the government to the taxpayer. So, yun. May exception naman kapag yung both the claims of the government and the taxpayer against each other have already become due and demandable as well as fully liquidated. So, pagka parehong debts or parehong obligations are fully liquidated and fully demandable, then pwede naman pala yung set-off or compensation. Now, let's discuss the difference between global and schedular systems of income taxation. Pag sinabi mong schedular, a system which itemizes the different incomes and provides for varied percentage of taxes to be applied thereto. Example nito ay yung sa income tax, di ba? Pagka income from compensation, subject to graduated rates. Kapag passive income, like for example, interest from deposits, 20%, hindi siya subject sa graduated rates. So, merong specific rate para sa specific kind of income. So, siya ay schedular system. When you talk about global system, on the other hand, an income tax system that aggregate income from all sources at the individual or corporate level, the income is then taxed at a single progressive rate. So, pagka ito, lahat ng income, kahit anong klaseng income, pagsasama-samahin, tapos i-apply sa tax rate, whether fixed rate or graduated rate. So, yun lang yun for global system and schedular system of income taxation. Now, let us delve into the situs of taxation. The meaning of the situs is that it is the place of taxation. The basic rule is that situs is the state which has jurisdiction or which exercises dominion over the subject in question. Yun nga, kung saan yung place na nakakasakop dun sa object, then that is the situs of taxation. We have a problem. This is what we call multiplicity of situs. It basically means that income or intangible personal properties may be subject to taxation in several taxing jurisdiction. Like yung income mo sa ibang bansa, if you are a resident citizen in the Philippines, is taxable on that other country and also taxable in the Philippines. So, meron kang multiplicity of situs na tinatawag. However, there are ways or remedies against multiplicity of situs. These are, number 1, provision on exemptions. 2, allowance of deduction or tax credit for foreign taxes. And lastly, treaties with other states. So, yon yung mga remedies against multiplicity of situs. Rules on situs. Pagka poll tax on persons, ang situs niya ay residence of the person. So you may wanna write those down. Real property tax, the situs is location of the property. For tax on tangible personal property, the situs is also the location of the property. And with regard to tax on intangible personal property, the situs is the domicile of the owner. When you say domicile, it is the permanent residence or the yung normal na tinitirhan, yung pinaka main residence ng owner. Next, for income tax, where the taxpayer is a citizen or resident or the place where the income is earned. Okay. Income tax, kung citizen or resident yung isang taxpayer, o kaya naman kung saan ginawa yung service or saan niya na-earn yung income. Yun yung situs for income tax. Next, business occupation and transaction tax. The situs is the place where the business is done or the occupation is engaged in or the transaction took place. So yun, pag business tax or occupation or transaction tax, those are the situs or situses ba ang plural ng situs or sita? Basta hindi ko alam, yun yung situses. Next, gratuitous transfer of property. The situs is the residence or citizenship of the taxpayer or where the property is located. Yun yung situs pagka gratuitous transfer of property. Don't worry. Kasi itong gratuitous transfer ay donation, no? Donors tax yan. Mas ma-elaborate natin yan pagdating natin sa donors tax. Hindi ko pa rin masyado maintindihan kung bakit merong or. Dalawa yung pwedeng maging situs. Doon na lang natin tuklasin. Malapit na matapos ng general principles, no? Onti na lang. So, eto na. Malapit na talaga. There are ways on legislating tax laws. For national taxes, all revenue or tariff bills shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments. The tax law passed by the Congress shall be a national law and applicable nationwide. So, kailangan daw sa House of Representatives manggaling yung tax laws or yung revenue and tariff bills. Hindi pwedeng sa Senate. Pero pwede naman daw mag-propose na amendments yung Senate thereafter. And also, I just would like to add, when it comes to tax exemptions, no law, buong term na yun, no law shall be passed regarding tax exemption without the concurrence of the majority of the Congress. So, kailangan majority ng Congress pagka tax exemption. Pero pag tax law, yung pagka-levy ng tax, the usual way of having a law being enacted. When it comes to local taxes, local government units such as province, city, municipality, and barangay may enact local tax measures through passage of a tax ordinance. The ordinance shall only be effective within the territorial jurisdiction of such local government unit. So those are local taxes, how they are legislated. So mayroon tayong tax ordinance. Okay, other doctrines in taxation. We have taxpayer suit. This can only be allowed if the act involves a direct and illegal disbursement of funds derived from taxation. Pag taxpayer suit, hindi ka file ng kaso dahil mali yung tinax sa'yo, kundi kung dahil mali yung paggastos ng funds na galing sa tax. Yun yung taxpayer suit. Next is equitable recoupment or recoupment. I just not sure about the pronunciation, but recoupment is the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this word. This states that a claim for refund which is prevented by prescription may be allowed to be used as payment for unsettled tax liabilities if both taxes arise from the same transaction in which overpayment is made and underpayment is due. Ayun, equitable recoupment. So, pwede daw pala na ma-refund or na ma-offset yung iyong overpayment sa iyong tax liability even if nag-prescribe na yung claim mo for refund as long as both taxes arise from the same transaction in which the overpayment is made or underpayment is due. Yun yung idea nitong equitable recoupment. Next one is tax amnesty. It is an immunity from all criminal and civil obligations arising from non-payment of taxes. It is a general pardon given to all taxpayers. It applies only to past periods, hence of retroactive applications. Ito yung amnesty. Pagkakaintindi ko dito based sa explanation ng discussion namin dati. Merong isang taxpayer na hindi nakapagbayad ng kanyang tax payable during a taxable year in the past. Ngayon, sa sumunod na tax year, hindi ulit siya nagbayad. Ngayon, hanggang sa naipon yung kanyang tax liability, nangyari, hindi na siya makapagbayad ng mga, kahit gusto man niya magbayad ng tax ngayong taxable year sa current na taxable year, hindi niya magawa kasi baka maungkat yung mga dati niya hindi pa nababayaran. Kaya ngayon meron tayong tinatawag na tax amnesty para magbalik loob siya na papatawarin na siya dun sa mga previous niyang utang with regard to tax. And then, para yun nga, in the present taxable year, makapagsimula siya ng bago and makapagbayad na siya from here on forward. So, I'm just gonna check, meron pa ba akong kulang for the general principles of taxation? Okay, so wala na. That's all for the general principles of taxation. If you were able to make it until the end, then I'm glad you stayed and listened to everything. And hopefully, I was able to help. And let's keep on learning more and prepare for our examination. Okay? Have a great day. Bye-bye.